Howdy and good morning to you all. Hope you all are having a great day. I know I am. I want to talk to you about inalienable rights. What are inalienable rights? Inalienable rights are those that come at your birth, such as, but not limited to, your free speech, your exercise of your religious freedoms, your right to possess a firearm for self defense, or to go hunting, or for sports, uh, whatever it may be. So I I think that hello that people need to know that there are no constitutional rights. People talk about constitutional rights. There are no constitutional rights. The Constitution is a restraining order upon the government. Hello. Telling the government what they cannot do to you, not anything other than that. So think of it as a large restraining order, and it's not a contract, it's a covenant. It has no expiration dates. Contracts have expiration dates. Y'all know I'm not an attorney, but I'm exercising my First Amendment right. So here's the deal. When you're born, you have inalienable rights that you've inherited by your birth, by your blood, by your being a human being. Okay, you got the right to self-defense. You've got the right to be left alone. You've got the right to pursue your happiness. You've got an untold amount of rights. So the Constitution recognizes your inalienable rights. The Constitution backs those inalienable rights up, and they guarantee it. And they put a stop to government interference, such as you have to have due process. Due process is multi layers, it's like an onion. You have a right to confront your accuser. You have the right to be properly served, to be given notice, to be given opportunity to do things. Uh, you have to be able to discover evidence on the other side. You have the right to a speedy trial. So it prescribes certain remedies into the Constitution, but it, it's it's stating among these, which means a portion of your rights that are recognized, backed up, and guaranteed with the full faith and credit of our public servants in office. So every time you cast a vote for somebody, that's your saying, I want this man or woman to be my representative. I want them to be my servant in the field to take care of my interest, make sure my inalienable rights are taken care of, make sure that public safety is taken care of in a fair and equitable manner. So my friend doesn't get to run wild in the streets, and he gets away with it. But then I have to pay a fine or go into a cage or something for doing the exact thing. Yo yo yo. Um, anyway, I've had a lot of people ask me to explain the Constitution and civil rights versus inalienable rights. An inalienable right is a right that you're given at birth. We like to refer to it as God-given rights, versus versus a constitutional right. In other words, when you're born, you have lots and lots and lots of rights. Nobody's ever said how many rights you have, because there's no way to know until somebody claims it. But they're saying among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And a lot of people are not given the opportunity to opt out. And contracts specify that this is other than constitutional. Contracts are outside of the Constitution. It's an agreement between two people. And a corporation is like an individual, a paper individual, not a living, breathing man or woman, but it's actually an entity, and it's recognized as a corporate individual, a uh, corporate fiction at law, where you're a real man or woman. And then they claim, well, these corporations can be harmed and they have rights like people. Well, they do have uh, privileges called rights, um, and these are much less than a living, breathing man or woman. So they might be harmed financially, but maybe not in other ways. But you can. You can be shot, stabbed, cut, run over, threatened, harassed, abused. The list is endless. So I'm hoping people will more readily use the term that we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, and we elect our representatives every year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever the case may be. Everything from your mayor and city council to president and anything in between. And everybody deserves their due process of law. That includes the president, just like right now, they're violating a lot of due process. Now, I know that's highly controversial, and you may be for the president, you may be for somebody else. Uh, uh, at any rate, the point is, if they can violate the president's due process, what chance do I have? What chance do you have at due process? Equitable, fair treatment and discovery, and witnesses that testify to our benefit, not the state's benefit. The state is the collective of the people. And so, just like where it says the state comes against you, the state never takes the witness stand. Think about this: when a police officer writes you a ticket, so he's the witness, the complainant, and the one that serves the process on you. Well, process servers are supposed to be a disinterested third party that just serve process. So being witness, complainant, and process server, three in one, that doesn't jive. I think that's a fatal flaw. And of course, when I was on the road and I did write tickets to people, I believed that I was right and correct in doing that. And depending on a lot of particulars, maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. So when you go get a driver's license, you're basically opting into the system and agreeing to go by the rules. But then if you don't and you opt out and you drive, wrangle your car, whatever, then they get you for not having a license. But that's converting a right of locomotion in your state or free movement, your right of free movement from state to state. So one of them's travel, like state to state, and intrastate within your own state, it's locomotion. And courts have said it doesn't matter if you're on a skating board, roller skates, uh, a bicycle, your private automobile, whatever it is. Hey, can somebody give me a thumbs up? I would surely like it. And anyway, my job, I believe, is to inform people, to educate them, and then let them make their own decision. I don't like to go out and rock the boat. I don't want to go out and try and harass some cop or some clerk at a court or whatever. I don't want to unnecessarily cause an alarm or panic or worry with anybody. I don't have to volunteer a lot of information, but I could state my general purpose. I don't have to give my name or address or information. It's just general purpose. Hey, I'm here gathering content for a story, and would you like to participate? They can say yes or no. And then so basically there is no alarm. The alarm was dispelled before there was an alarm. So if a peace officer, law enforcement officer shows up and says, what are you doing? I've already told them. I'm a reporter and I'm gathering content for a story. What's the story? Well, that's, without being rude, that's none of your business. Um, if I decide to publish it, which I probably will, then you'll see it. And if I don't, well, then I determined it wasn't newsworthy. But that's up to me or you or the next guy or gal. But I want people to know that a privilege, they call driving a privilege. Remember, driving is in the Commerce Code. So unless you are driving for money or for valuable consideration, you're at your leisure. Uh, and whether you call it driving, wrangling, controlling, whatever your automobile, then you're doing so in your private capacity. You're not doing it in a commerce capacity. I've actually been pulled over with a CDL license in my private automobile over the years, and I've said, well, I'm not in my commercial capacity. Most police did not understand that, and I explained it to them, and I got let go. Now, that don't mean that I ain't going to run into somebody today or tomorrow that says, oh, it doesn't matter. But some state police in various states said, okay, so you're not in your commercial capacity, you're in your private capacity, exercising your right of free movement or locomotion. Yes. So there are actually some that do know. You know, I'm not the only guy out there that knows, but it's not widely taught and understood by law enforcement across the country. Just like your citizenship. Most people don't understand citizenship like a citizen of the U.S. That's different than an American citizen. One has rights, one has privileges. Your passport has different code numbers on it and different information, and the Secretary of State knows exactly what that is. And I know people with state citizenship and a American passport versus people as a U.S. citizen. So you got to read the fine print. You got to go do a little legal research. And just like people all the time are hauled in on some kind of gun violation, okay, and there wasn't no probable cause. There wasn't articulable reasonable suspicion. And that's why, like, I sell self-defense fund. I'm an affiliate. I'm a liaison with selfdefensefund.com. Uh, you know, uh, the point is that um, I've had to arrest a man in the past that was involved in self-defense, but the way he explained it and the way he said it, it met the statute, and I was required to arrest him. Now, after all the facts came out, I actually told the state attorney, hey, I think this guy was in self-defense. We need to drop the case. He says, well, he said, but he used too much force. And I said, well, how are you supposed to know where the line in the sand is? You know, you got to go to his state of mind, his mens rea, his criminal intent. Was he trying to protect himself and stop the attack, or was he trying to hurt or kill somebody? It was his wife, and he almost killed her. But she could have very easily killed him by the same right. So that case was worked out, and he wound up getting a deferred adjudication, and the case eventually got dismissed like a year later. So I think if a cop makes a mistake and he becomes aware of it at some point, he needs to go to his chain of command. He needs to go to the DA or state attorney's office and say, hey, we made a mistake. Yeah, I made mistakes. And I owned up to it, and I wrote supplemental reports to back that up. And I know a lot of cops that do that. I know other cops that don't. Either they don't know how to or they don't want to. But whatever the situation is, it's not good. And I'm recommending to people these days to get their own trust, TRUST. Look them up, common law trust, statutory trust, different trust. And maybe you want to put your bank account in a trust. You want to put your home in a trust. So that when people, unscrupulous people, I'm not talking about to do it, to go out and do wrong and hide behind it. That's wrong, and your trust can be pierced for that. But I'm saying normally, the atypical man or woman that wants to have privacy, they can get their cell phones through a trust. They can get their homes through a trust. So all this artificial intelligence can't track you. It's tracking a trust, and that's separate from you. Kind of like a corporation is separate from you, but it's different, has a lot more protections. So people that come from England, the rich people, they all had trust. And so if they got sued, if different things happened, it went against them, and they didn't have no income, they didn't have no money. The trust did, but the trust took care of them. It was like Big Daddy taking care of them. And people understood that we, the people, are the masters, and we hire servants to work in the field. You ever called a government agency and asked to speak to somebody, and they say they're out in the field? They're out in the field? Sure, they're field hands. Now, some of them are skilled and some's unskilled, but they're field hands, and we're the master. But the servants have turned on the masters in many cases. Think about if you owned a large farm, a winery, and you hired 50 people to go out there and pick the berries or fruits for your wine or what have you. And they was trying to gather intelligence on you. And they was trying to come against you and do you wrong, you would fire them. Well, that's what we need to do to people in the state legislature and in Congress that are bad servants. Fire them. Hire somebody else. People that know what their position and what their role in society is, and that they're doing our work. And we pay their salaries with our taxes. So I'm not against paying taxes. I mean, that's common sense. But an appropriate amount of tax, not over taxation, not over regulation. That stymies the economy. That puts a halt to your exercise of your pursuit of happiness. Now, I realize that there needs to be some regulation. Okay, we don't need people, for example, that sell insurance, not to have some regulation, or they would lie, cheat, and steal. Some people say, well, they're already doing that. Well, it'd be worse. Yeah, there needs to be some standards on automobiles that they're safe and roadworthy and all that. Yeah, I get it. But government that makes rules and policies just as a revenue machine, that's bad and wrong. And yeah, if there's a reckless driver, I expect the police to stop them and deal with them. Okay? But do it rightly and justly. And in fact, I had a conversation with a sergeant the other night. And he thinks exactly the same way I do, per se. I mean, not, we're different people, but my precept is it's old school. It's more like the Dragnet or maybe Adam 12 versus RoboCop. Okay, it's just a difference. Anyway, I'm going to try and start on my church website putting case laws and some other information that'll be of value to people. And I've got people that can help draft documents. They're not attorneys. They may or may not be a paralegal, but they can help you at your direct, specific instruction to help them craft documents. And they can help you start your own private association. See, the bar card is an association. They make up their own internal rules, but yet they're intertwined with the judiciary. Okay? The Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, they make up their own rules in their own association. How they expel people, how they get special treatment and do different things that they available to the general public. Okay? So in your own association, it has lots of benefits too. And it's basically how to live on the private side in life. You have a private side and a public side, and there's a big difference. And to learn those are important. And to create your argument, meaning a legal argument with with the police on the side of the road, when to hold them, when to fold them, and what to do. You need to know it, you need to understand it, you need to be able to articulate it, and then at some point, then you're going to have to be able to demonstrate that in court if it goes that far. If you work with the officer and you try and explain to him certain things and don't wave your arms around and get loud and talk fast and do a lot of things, you may come out much, much better, and you may have educated the officer, he may have educated you, and society benefits. So let's do it, but let's do it the right way. I back the Constitution up because it backs up and recognizes our rights. Doesn't grant it, just recognize it. That's like I say, I recognize 22 foot over there, that's your property. Okay, well, I didn't give you that property. I recognized it's yours, and I stay off of it unless I have permission to be on it. So, thank you. God bless y'all, and have a great day. And I'll be trying to get some more videos out here pretty soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.